Something that's not commonly understood, especially by people here in Japan, is I actually had the pleasure of training with the Japanese Army when I was in the Marines.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We worked with them for about a month.
Where was that?
If you're interested in meeting a person in the military, more often than not, they're going to be in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
Predominantly, there's like two main reasons that Marines are on Okinawa.
Yeah.
The first one, and the most common, is
Hey everyone! 皆さんこんにちは。アーサーです。今回の動画ではあなたの英語のリスニングを鍛えることができるネイティブ同士の本当に生の会話をお届けしたいと思います。英語は勉強するための科目ではなくコミュニケーションを取るためのツールです。ただ一般的なリスニング教材はコミュニケーションのためのものではなく英語学習者向けに作られているので本来の目的からずれています。だからたくさん聞いてもリスニング力は意外と伸びないのです。なぜそうなのか詳しく知りたい方はこちらの動画をご覧ください。そこで皆さんのリスニングを伸ばすために僕の友達のオースティンと一緒に The Austin and Arthur Show というチャンネルを始めました。日本人の英語学習者にとって興味深いトピックについてリアルなスピードで話しているので楽しみながらあなたのリスニング力が自然に伸びていきます。またアメリカ人の友達同士の生の会話だから普通の教材では出てこない表現もたくさん使います。Austin and Arthur Friends に入っていないと字幕がないのでハードルがかなり高いと思います。だからこのチャンネルでは時々その会話の一部を日本語と英語の字幕付きで公開しています。ぜひリスニングや理解度のチェックに使ってください。今回のトピックは在日アメリカ軍についてです。ちょっとセンシティブな話題ですが、アメリカ人が戦争をどう見ているか、アメリカ軍が日本にいることでのメリットとデメリット、オースティンの海兵隊としての経験に触れます。あと、オースティンの新しいメガネやなぜ日本酒をこぼす話まで出てきます。それでは、Let's get started.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh man, this is my style.
I like this.
I know.
This is tasty.
It's the Genshu, man. It's Dewa. So Dewa is like kind of that Tohoku region.
Yeah.
I like this.
You know, the thing about Genshu is like, I don't know if this is true or not, but it just feels thicker.
It is. Yeah, because normally they water down sake to get it at like a uniform alcohol level.
Yeah. So
not Genshu.
Yeah, it's just heavier. And I like that.
And you know this is a good bottle because they have one of the pop tops. It's not like a screw-on cap.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I forget how much this was, but this is pretending to be classy.
It's tasty.
It's tasty. Yeah.
So
today we're going to be... Did you already spill? Hey,
I did not spill.
Dude, look at that. Look at what's that? What's that?
That was already there.
Komin, can I have a tissue, please?
That was already there.
Yeah, you can pass it on. You can pass it on this side.
Way to make a big deal out of a little drop.
Well, now that we have a great assistant who helps us stay organized, I want to take full advantage of that.
Swipe it under
here.
the...
Yeah, I'm not going to, because then I'm going to swipe it with my fingers. It's going to get on my fingers. My fingers will get sticky. The table will get sticky. And you know what happens afterwards? When I come back and like run my fingers over it, it gets caught on the stickiness of the sake. It's gross, man. Anyways, so today we are going to be talking about spilling sake because that's the best thing you're best at.
Yeah. Okay.
No. So we're going to talk about kind of a sensitive topic, but I think it's a very interesting topic.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the U.S. military,
especially in Japan.
Here in Japan specifically, because I think it's actually kind of weird, like the relationship the U.S. military has with Japan.
Yeah.
Because it's like, honestly, it feels like a very polarized topic. Like people are either like really, really, really supportive of the U.S. military here, or they hate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, isn't that weird?
I mean,
like, it's kind of this like...
I can kind of understand. I can understand it because it's funny because now like America and Japan are allies and the relationship is really good, but that was built on a foundation of like pure hatred.
Yes.
So
yeah, it's really crazy. Like first of all, if you look at the history of like with Japan and America, I mean, obviously the big elephant in the room is World War II.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of bitterness that I think Japan feels towards the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. On the American side, there's a lot of bitterness towards Pearl Harbor and the war itself. But I think you mostly find that in older generations now. And I think the relationship between Japan and America has like become really close.
What's funny though is like, so I've kind of noticed this. By the way, before I go further, this is totally off topic, but are those new glasses? They look nice on you, man.
I've had them for about a month. I was just kind of waiting for people to notice.
Yeah. They look nice because this is the first time we were meeting in like 2 weeks, right? 2-3 weeks, Yeah. Looks nice. So can you just look at the camera so people can see them?
Yeah, they were on the last episode.
Guys,
by the way.
zoom in on his face so you can see the nice glasses.
Wow.
Yeah. So what I've noticed, because a lot of my audience skews older, and I think that's because I'm American. Like just because what I've noticed is the old generation that grew up during World War II, they still have some antipathy towards America. They just won't talk about it. But then people who now are in their like 50s and 60s, they grew up in post-war Japan where there was a lot of re-education happening to say America's the good guys. And so everyone loves America. But nowadays, all the young people want to go to Australia or like Canada.
I think that might just be a money thing though.
No, I don't think so, man.
Really?
Because I asked, because I've asked a lot of younger people like what they like of where they want to go, and no one ever says they want to go to America. They say they want to go to Canada or Australia. I'm like, why not America? And they're like, it's a bit dangerous.
Fair,
right? Yeah, I mean, you see someone shooting someone on the news all the time.
But yeah, so kind of to bring it back to the military thing here, I think something that's not commonly understood, especially by people here in Japan, is the culture of the military. So Japan has the self-defense force, right? And to be fair, I think the self-defense force was kind of rebuilt after World War II to kind of follow the same structure as the American military. So like the self-defense force will have like a Navy, their Air Force, their Army, right? And I actually had the pleasure of training with the Japanese Army when I was in the Marines.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We worked with them for about a month.
Where was that?
This was back in Camp Pendleton in California.
Okay.
And we had a lot of fun.
They came over from Japan and trained in California?
Yeah, it was a joint training session, and
What kind of stuff did you guys do together?
I mean, so I was infantry, and the Japanese Army soldiers that came over here were also infantry. So we did joint training, and basically the idea was to familiarize yourself with the Allied nations' equipment. Okay. So many of the things that the Japanese military uses are coincidentally the same as the U.S. military, but there's different ways that people will use them. Okay. And so the idea,
it's like the tools are the same, but the way you use the tools are different.
Yeah.
Conventions are different. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, the idea was Japan would come over and learn what Marines do, and Marines working alongside of the Japanese Army there would be like shared knowledge. Okay. Basically, it's like, oh, well, we do it this way. Well, we do it this way. And it's like just basically understanding what each other does. And that's really common. Most NATO countries and just most countries that are allied with America will do that. Okay. I also worked with Royal Marines from England. I worked with military. I want to say they were Marines, but I don't remember, from South Korea and Australia. Okay. Also. So we constantly had guys coming over and.
Yeah, so I know like you guys, you like you just said, you worked with people from many different countries, but particularly with the Japanese people who came over. What was like the relationship like there?
One of the things that I was really surprised about was how military culture, kind of regardless of where in the world, is kind of the same. Yeah. And I think that for me, that was kind of like one of the first times that I really kind of, I'm going to be a bit extreme here, because like everyone has their cultural biases, right? When you think of like, oh, people from one country think this way, and most people, I think, in the world kind of treat other cultures as like a monolith, where it's like, oh, you're from France, so you're from Paris, and you think this way, and you do this, right? And a lot of the assumptions that I had for people in Japan, I'd already been to Japan at this point, but I didn't spend a lot of time there. It was just summers, and a lot of the assumptions that I had, especially for like young men in Japan, were kind of broken when I was training with them. I was like, oh, okay, you're basically just the same as me. You're just some grunt that, you know, gets into trouble from time to time and does stuff, right? And so it was a really positive experience. And so going back to like the different militaries that are here in Japan, obviously America has a very big presence, and I'm gonna name off a couple of the bases that you'll hear here in Japan. They're mostly centered around like Kanto area. There's many other bases like Hokkaido, Kyushu, and stuff. But Yokosuka is like the big naval base here in Kanto. And that's actually kind of located close to me. It's in Yokosuka, which is kind of like near Shonan. And Navy culture is all about drinking.
Really? Okay.
Like, I don't know how else to put it. It's like sailors in the Navy. So first of all, that base usually deals with like actual warships. So a lot of warships, like destroyers and aircraft carriers will go there. And so the culture there with the Navy is just like drinking a lot, and that's like it.
Like, so on their downtime they just like get plastered.
So like I've got a lot of Navy friends here, and basically every weekend they're in Yokohama going to like izakaya. Like that's their hobby.
Okay.
Yeah. And you know, you can love that or hate that. But I think out of all the branches, they're probably the most social.
Okay. Navy.
I think here in Japan, like if you're interested in meeting a person in the military, more often than not, they're going to be in the Navy. And I don't know why that is, but it's just from my experience, I've found sailors to be the most social like branch, right?
Okay.
And so moving on, we have like Zama.
Zama.
Yeah. So that's an army base, and the majority of the guys on that base are like I believe medical staff. Okay. I think that obviously there's other jobs there, but I think that's like the primary purpose of that base. I think it's like a medical station. And from what I've found with the Army guys, and I'm going to show my bias here as a Marine, those guys have been the least social.
Least social, okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of strange because like a lot of the Navy guys that I meet make like a pretty hard attempt to like kind of learn about Japan, and like some of them have even picked up on speaking Japanese while they're here, and for some reason all the Army guys that I've met have not.
So why do you say that shows your bias? Because it seems like you're just sharing your experience.
Well, I'm the reason why I say that is I'm saying a negative thing about the Army, and Marines and Army hate each other, so that's why.
Okay, and the Marines and Navy don't really hate each other so much?
No, Marines and Navy get along. Well, it's because the Marines are part of the Navy.
Okay,
so
yeah.
You have that shared history.
Okay.
And so those are like the two branches that I think you're going to mostly encounter here in Tokyo.
What's in Atsugi?
Atsugi is, I believe, the Air Force base. And they're the least common branch that I think you'll meet here in Japan. I'm going to kind of talk about them the same way as I talk about the Marines, because their job here in Japan is very similar to the Marines here. So they're in charge of maintaining aircraft here in Japan. So just to give a little bit of backstory, Japan's a very important place for like,
for obvious reasons.
For obvious reasons, right? It's right next to China, so America puts a lot of like bombers and airplanes over here. Yeah. And anyways, so they're in charge of maintaining that place, and then Okinawa, I think, is like the big. If you want to go meet a Marine, that's where Okinawa. That's where you go to Okinawa, right?
So most of the Marines are in Okinawa.
I think all of them.
Okay.
I think there might be like a small Marine Corps base, maybe 2, like on like mainland Japan. But here's where I want to break down, because this is the part that I'm most familiar with.
Yeah.
So
'Cause you are a
Okinawa
Marine.
has many jobs,
Yeah.
but predominantly there's like 2 main reasons that Marines are on Okinawa.
Yeah.
The first one, and the most common, is they're part of the Air Corps. And so they're working on aircraft, and these guys have really stressful and really demanding jobs. So I wasn't with the Air Corps, but I just being in the Marines, I knew people who were, and from what I understand, they have 12-hour shifts. So they do 12 hours on, 12 hours off, 12 hours on, 12 hours off. And it gets to be really stressful.
Yeah.
And that leads to drinking.
Yeah.
And like a big difference in the kind of the personality between like drinking with Navy guys and drinking with Marines is Navy is a lot more social drinking. Marines is a lot more like problematic drinking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, if you look at Okinawa, there's unfortunately a lot of crime statistics that happen there. There's a lot of like, assaults and sexual assaults and problems.
Yeah.
And it's led to a lot of Okinawan people really hating Marines.
Yeah.
Which is really unfortunate. And I think one of the common things I get asked a lot, it's like, oh, well, you were a Marine. Well, why are Marines like this?
Yeah.
And so to give like a little bit of backstory, like,
just to be clear, you're not saying that what they're doing is okay and it's excusable.
Oh, no.
You're just giving like the background of why it happens.
Yeah.
So maybe
Yeah,
to fix it, we can have an idea of how to fix
exactly,
it.
right? Like I'm not condoning these actions at all.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important to understand why they happen, so there can be discourse in the future to like try and figure out a way to prevent these things from happening, right? So in the Marines, hey guys, if you've watched this far, you're gonna love our Austin and Arthur friends.
In the Austin and Arthur friends, you're going to really improve your English listening, and I mean a lot.
Yeah. So for each episode, you'll get English and Japanese subtitles, so you can check your listening and comprehension.
You'll also get access to a members-only community where you can talk with us, the both of us. Mainly me, right?
No, definitely not. For more info, click on the link here, or in the description box of this video.
Thanks for being our friend. Woo! I have no friends.
Starting off, going to boot camp. Marines have the longest boot camp out of any branch.
How long is it?
13 weeks.
13 weeks, okay.
Yeah, so just a little over 3 months. You're not allowed to use your cell phone. You're not allowed to communicate with your family outside of writing letters. I think they've kind of calmed down on assaulting you in the Marines. So you don't really get physically hit these days, but you get verbally abused 24/7. Like that's just Marine Corps life. And there's a reason for that, and they're trying to break you down and build you up and make you tougher, right? That's the idea.
Yeah.
And so out of all the branches, by far, the Marine Corps is the most stressful branch to be in. And it never stops. Once you finish training, you go to your like job training. It's stressful there. You finish that, you go out to what's called the fleet, which is like where your station is. It's stressful there. For
you
many
12-hour shifts?
For the air wing, obviously depending on your job, it'll change. But so these guys come out here, and many of these guys are 18 years old. They're extremely stressed, and they often resort to alcoholism.
Yeah.
And a big problem here in Okinawa that's kind of unique to different bases around the world is like you look at the American bases, and there's usually older guys that kind of act as mentors on those bases that kind of look after everyone. It's like, don't do that, idiot. Like if you do that, this will happen. Stop it. And they kind of look after the young Marines, right? Well, you don't really see that in Okinawa because first of all, it's a 4-year duty station.
Mm-hmm.
So you do 4 years, and then usually you just go on to a different place and
Okay.
because it's considered a deployment because it's overseas.
What do you mean by deployment?
So
Yeah.
anytime you're doing something at a base that's not in America,
Mhm.
it's what's called a deployment.
Okay, so like,
Right.
so for instance, like where I lived in Germany, there was like a base too.
So
that's
the
a
army
deployment
base in
too.
Germany, yes.
Okay.
It's the same thing. So they're coming over here and they're here for a temporary time,
Mhm.
and because of that, there's a really high attrition on like the older staff.
Yeah, so the older staff leave.
Yeah.
Often.
So there's a constant influx of inexperienced people that often have no concept of Japan at all.
Yeah.
They don't know anything about Japan.
Mhm.
And so they're coming here, they're under high stress situations. They don't have like a mentor support
Mhm.
system that's set up to really like guide these Marines in a
Mhm.
good direction.
And they're all
So-
like 18, 19 years old,
yeah,
20.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
And so, and just kind of the way that Japanese society is
Mhm.
kind of set up, it's, I'm not gonna say Japan is, weak or anything, but I think it's very susceptible to abuse.
Mhm.
I guess that's how I'd put it. Because you see like YouTubers coming here and like causing problems in Shibuya, right?
Mhm.
It's the same thing with Marines here. It's like Marines tend to be like really aggressive,
Mhm.
and loud,
Mhm.
and will try. Yeah, I mean, they just cause problems. That's
Mhm.
just what Marines do.
Mhm.
And so when you put them in, Japan,
Mhm.
like that's like the perfect storm for causing a problem,
Yeah.
right?
When you have like a country that's very safe, where people don't necessarily call you out directly, and then you have these really aggressive people who, even in like a very aggressive society, would still break the rules and
Yeah.
stuff.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not exaggerating this. Other branches get hazard pay when Marines are stationed on their base.
What does that mean, hazard
pay? Like they get extra money because the base has become more dangerous.
pay? Okay, yeah.
So
When the Marines are there.
yeah. So I mean, it is what it is, and I think a lot of Marines kind of have a little bit of pride on their aggression, but
Mhm.
the main problem is a lack of a mentor support system and alcoholism.
Yeah.
I think are the two issues that kind of lead to all this criminal activity that happens at Okinawa.
Mhm.
And like I said, like we said earlier, I'm not trying to give an excuse for this. I think this is actually addressing a huge problem that I experienced when I was in the Marines, of just not having support.
Yeah.
I think something that the U.S. military and Japan actually share is there's just really poor mental health support.
Yeah.
Like you see that all the time here in Japan, but you also see it all the time in the U.S. military,
Mhm.
especially in the Marines.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's kind of the things I've said a few negative things,
Mhm.
quite a few negative things about some of the branches, but one of the things that I really want people to know is there's really distinct cultures between the branches,
Right.
and we really identify, like it's kind of like almost separate countries.
Yeah, and you said then there's a lot of like, not necessarily antagonism, but rivalry between them.
Oh, huge. I would say the biggest would be the Army and the Marine Corps, because those are considered like the combat branches.
Yeah, right. Right.
And so, yeah, Marines and Army, I think, by and large, don't really get along very
Yeah.
well. And then, like,
I mean, also like the Marines are kind of seen as like the higher level, like
Yeah.
special ops people, and the Army is just like the normies, the regular people. So they have like a bone to pick.
we certainly think of ourselves that way.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think depending on who I think the Army might look at themselves as above the Marines, and Marines.
Well, so
But-
just as someone who's just a plain civilian, I've never been in the military or anything, but I remember when I was a kid,
Yeah.
I was watching, they used to run like Army enlistment advertisements on TV all the time.
Yeah.
And when they would have like the Marines advertisement, they would say the few, the proud, the Marines.
Yeah, that's a
you know?
common thing. My thing is, it's something that's kind of funny is military enlistment throughout the past couple of years in the U.S. has gone down substantially.
Yeah, sure.
Except the Marine Corps.
Really?
It's grown.
Oh, it's grown.
Yeah, and the reason why is that more elite aspect. Because if you look at the other branches in the U.S. military, they've really tried hard over the past couple of years to be very inclusive,
Mm-hmm.
and the Marine Corps has not.
Yeah.
And the Marine Corps stance is you can do anything in our job. If you're a woman, you can serve in the infantry now. That's something that's changed recently. However, we're not changing the requirements. So if you can't carry a 100-pound backpack, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. You can't do this job.
Yeah, right.
And I think that mentality has really attracted people because it's like people love being told they can't do something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's like reverse psychology. Like I remember as a kid growing up, I think this was like back in 2006, like you'd see the recruitment ads and like the army would be like Army Strong and showing like some guy hugging his family and you know an American flag. And the Marine Corps one was the best. Yeah. Because it was like some dude with a sword and a dragon appears and it's like, are you going to fight the dragon?
Yeah.
And the guy just goes and fights a dragon and it's like, what the hell is going
really
on?
Cool. Yeah.
Like, it was so cool. So you know, like, I feel like, you know, that kind of person gets attracted into the Marines.
Yeah, man. So like, I'm kind of curious because I know you, so you were never actually stationed you were never deployed in Japan, but like what, from your friends, you have a lot of friends in the Navy, right?
Yeah.
So from your friends in the Navy, how is it for them interacting with the local people?
Yeah. So again, I think it depends on your branch because Marines are very restricted in what they can do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rules in Okinawa about, you know, going out, but I think the rules are more relaxed for Navy and Army here. And I think especially Navy, one thing that I notice a lot of the Navy guys here in Japan do is they really just go out and talk to Japanese people.
Yeah.
I don't know why the Navy guys do it, but you always see it all the time. Like, you know, especially if you go to Yokohama, which I think is the most common place.
Yeah,
where
it's close to Yokosuka.
Yeah, right. You go to Yokohama and you go to an izakaya. There's plenty of bars where there's just sailors drinking with old Japanese guys. And that's a really common sight. And it's usually like a really friendly atmosphere.
Yeah.
And they're just two guys getting drunk. And I think something that I noticed like as a prior military guy moving to Japan is the culture inside the military feels very similar to the culture here in Japan.
Okay.
There's a very rigid like rank system that you often see in Japan here. You know, you have like the senpai, kohai, and shacho. Yeah. Right. That same thing you have in the military. There's a big emphasis on camaraderie. Like, you know, something that you'll often see here in Japan is people, usually the friends that they have are their coworkers.
Yeah, right.
That's something that's very common here in Japan. Their coworkers are all their friends. And outside of that group, yeah, maybe they have one or two like childhood friends, but it's like mostly work centered, right? It's the same in the military, right? And so I think that if you're an American coming over here and you're in the military, I think it's very easy for you to live here. But also I think if you're a Japanese person, I feel like you'll just often find a lot in common with military people from the United States. Yeah. Like,
no, I mean, like you say, you know, there are a lot of similarities there, you know?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's definitely a lot of reasons to create friction just because like historical stuff and, you know, biases growing up in an area and maybe witnessing bad stuff the military's done here. But I think I would really highly recommend if you meet a military person here, just talk to them. Yeah. You know, one thing that's kind of interesting and you don't really see here is foreigners here in Japan.
When you say foreigners, do you mean?
I mean everyone.
Okay.
Right. If you move here, it's because you're interested in Japan. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I would say like 98%. Right. Yeah. Maybe some people move here, but they're because of their job, but it's very rare. Yeah. Military is not that. More often than not, you'll get a person who knows nothing about Japan getting sent over here. And I think it's a really refreshing thing because one thing that I think that those people will be interested in is actually learning about Japanese culture. Yeah. Because, you know, if somebody comes up to like you or me and like starts talking about Japanese culture, it's like, yeah,
we
whatever.
know that already.
I've heard it already, right? Like, don't talk to me about how to use chopsticks. Like, come on, like have more respect for me. And I think that's kind of the attitude here. But if you meet somebody in the military, it's like, do you know how to use chopsticks? No, I don't even know what chopsticks are.
Yeah, right.
That's the thing in Chinese restaurants, right?
Yeah,
like,
right.
And then so it's like you can kind of start off on like more basic knowledge conversations that you can't really experience with like traditional foreigners here.
Yeah, right. No, I get that, you know. Like I remember I had one of my friends from church actually was in the Navy. He was stationed in Yokosuka when I was studying abroad here, and we hung out, and he knew nothing about Japan.
Yeah,
so I was like,
right?
I was like his Japan guide.
Yeah,
I was showing him
and
around a lot.
it's kind of fun because like you really get like an innocent kind of feeling with that, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, so what I'm also kind of like curious to hear about is because I've talked to some Japanese people about their opinions about the military presence in Japan, but what about for your friends or your personal experience of interacting with Japanese people talking about the U.S. military presence in Japan?
Well, I mean, that kind of depends on who you're talking to. I think it's pretty easy to notice that most Japanese people living around military bases hate it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, that's not unique to Japan. It's the same in the U.S.
German.
Yeah, but Americans hate living next to military bases too.
Yeah.
You want to know why? Because there's a bunch of reckless 18-year-olds being dumb. And they're going to be dumb, right? That's just the reality of things. Now, could that be, better regulated and fixed? Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of goes back with what I was saying about like mentors being really important. Like you need those like 26, 28-year-old guys to kind of control them and just be like, hey, idiot, stop doing that, and to be like a good role model. Yeah. It's really important. But yeah, so I think the majority of people that I meet here in Japan, from the conversations that I've had, react favorably towards military.
Okay.
But also the majority of people that I've met here in Japan and talked about the military don't live next to a base.
Yeah, right.
I've met some people from Okinawa, and a lot of people from Okinawa that I've talked to don't really like Marines.
Yeah.
And to be honest, actually, the people in Yokosuka I've talked to are okay with the Navy guys. But again, I think it's just because Navy guys are just more social, I think. So
kind of like just to kind of put a pin on this conversation or wrap it up. So you talked about like the issues in Okinawa with the Marines, and you talked about some reasons for the problems, and you talked a little bit about it already, but like, what do you think are some changes that can be made to pursue fixing the situation?
Well, I think, first of all, fundamentally, the way deployments to Okinawa need to change, because I think there needs to be more incentives for people to stay here long term.
Okay.
Right. And to be honest, a lot of Navy guys that I've talked to have been here for 15 years.
Okay.
So I don't know why the Navy guys tend to stay here. Probably just because their experience is better than being in Okinawa, where I've talked to a lot of Marines there and they kind of equate it to prison.
Okay.
Just because there's so many rules restricting everything.
Okay.
And I think if there was a better mentor support system where older Marines, and when I say older, I mean like I said, the 26-year-old guys who have been in the Marine Corps for a while and are old enough to kind of have authority over these young guys and kind of be a role model and say, look, I'm a family man. I don't cause trouble. I do my job. I go relax and have fun. And this is what you should be like. You shouldn't be the party guy going out and causing trouble every weekend. I think if there were more older guys there, you would see problems go down.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Yeah. Well, that's be very interesting. I would love to hear, the other people watching this about your experience. I know some American guys watch us too.
Yeah.
So like your experience with the if you have military experience, or for Japanese people, what you think. Of course, like your opinion is very important to me too, but I want to hear everyone's opinion too. So please leave a comment, and especially on this video, share your opinions.
If you got a favorite branch, let us know too.
Yeah.
And it better be the Marine Corps or the Navy.
Just write down the Marines. And if you don't like the Marines, write down Austin.
Yeah.
That'll be great.
Yeah, it's fair. It's all right. You can talk crap about the Marines in Okinawa because they have a different job. So the Marines, little quick thing.
Yeah.
Marines have a term we call POG.
POG?
It means person other than grunt. So the Marine
Person
Corps is
other
like
than grunt.
yeah, the Marine Corps is like a combat focused branch, and it's widely considered that the infantry are they're the stars of the show for the Marine Corps, because there's this term like every Marine's a rifleman.
Yeah.
So the Marine Corps infantry kind of look down at the other jobs in the Marine Corps. It's like, you're
Oh, so a POG is kind of like seen as lower level.
yeah, it's like you're just some thing.
I see.
You're some support thing for me. So yeah, we call them POGs.
POGs. So if you're in the Marines, you should not be a POG then, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right, man. Well, it was good talking to you. I'll see you next time.
Yeah, man.
英語を実際に話せるようになるには、自転車の乗り方を身につけるのと同じように、実際に使うことが大事です。自分のリスニングを磨きたい方のために The Austin and Arthur Friends を作ったので、ぜひご覧ください。Please check it from here. また、リスニング以外にも実際に外国人と対面して英語を話そうとすると頭が真っ白になって言葉が出てこなくなってしまうっていう悩みを抱えている人もいるのではないでしょうか。まあ僕も昔同じように日本語をたくさん勉強したのに日本に来たら全く話せなかったっていう辛い経験をしたことがあります。他の方に英語を実際に気軽に話せるようになって昔の僕と同じ辛い経験をしないように世界とつながる英会話メソッドを開発してなるべく多くの方にお届けしたいと思います。そのメソッドの詳細が学べる無料動画講座をメールでシェアしているので気になる方はぜひこちらをクリックするか概要欄にあるリンクをクリックしてください。And you can join from there. Until next time, enjoy your English adventures. これからも一緒に世界とつながりましょう。See you next time. Bye.